Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Women's Affairs. Can the Minister outline a significant improvement for women initiated by the current government?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Bringing about real and sustainable change in the long tradition of Aotearoa New Zealand is about the leadership of women themselves. This government has recognised and respected that by providing resources and tools to support women to translate their interests, skills and ambitions into practical effect through the development of My Board Strengths Initiative, the Women's on Boards self-assessment tool, to be officially launched next week. The toolkit supports women's own abilities to make smart decisions about developing their governance skills, with a view to lifting women's representation in governance in the public and private sectors. My Board Strengths forms part of the new and improved Women on Boards website.
Carol Beaumont.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Order. I've called Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why were most of the achievements recently outlined by the government in the report on progress on CEDAW initiatives of the last Labour government, while the negative changes from National were left out?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, CEDAW was the fifth report over the last 50 years. I think it's somewhat arrogant to suggest that all of the changes somehow occurred in one administration. As I said in my previous
Order, point of order.
The question was specifically referring to the last report, not all 5 reports.
Order. I think the member's being a little hasty in raising a point of order. My greater concern was a question was asked, an answer was being given, and the noise was pretty excessive. Well, to suggest the question wasn't political, I think, is stretching it a bit. Hekia Parata, the Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, as I said in my response to the primary question, Aotearoa New Zealand has a long tradition of New Zealand women taking responsibility, taking leadership themselves for the decisions about the lives that they lead. The CEDAW report captures some parts of that journey, the parts that the government contributes to, but there's a whole wide world that women themselves are in charge of, and that's what this government is committed to supporting.
Carol Beaumont.
Mr Speaker.
Order. I've called Carol Beaumont.
What is the Ministry of Women's Affairs saying or doing about the changes to the Employment Relations Act that will enable the dismissal of workers without reason or recourse from the 1st of April and will disproportionately impact on women?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
The government has taken a widespread approach to how we can engage women across the entire economy. That means that we're looking for opportunities for them to be given chances to be taken on into employment areas they might not otherwise do. That means that we have seen occupational segregation that has forced women into lower paid opportunities must be addressed. That means that we have focused on the pay disparity gap that side of the House is generally focused on. We have seen that, for instance, moving in the right direction, fallen from 13% in 2008 to 11.3% in 2009 and 10.6% in 2010. An indicator only one.
Order. No, except the question contained a couple of statements that were certainly capable of being disputed, but it didn't actually invite a prolonged speech. I think the answer was quite long enough. Carol Beaumont.
I think the question was quite specific in referring to the changes to the Employment Relations Act.
Order. The member will resume her seat now. I'm not even going to invite her to repeat her question, because in her question she made a couple of assertions that were completely capable of being commented on by the Minister. The Minister chose to respond to the latter part of the question, and if she wants to have a question answered, keep it short. Cut out the last 2 parts of that last question. Carol Beaumont.
Supplementary. Does the Minister agree with her colleague Kate Wilkinson that New Zealand women who are underpaid, facing ever-rising prices and struggling to make ends meet, should be, quote, grateful that there is a national government focused on lifting economic performance and ensuring the well-being of families and communities?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, as I've already said, this government is committed to raising opportunities for all women to participate in the economy and in ways where their work and their potential is properly rewarded and valued.
Let it go. We want to show that on TV. That's a YouTube.
Question.
Don't let it have another go.
I beg your pardon. Catherine Delahunty, supplementary question.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker.
My apologies.
Tēnā koe, Minister. To the Minister, despite the generic figures you've mentioned, does she agree that we don't have enough information on the gender pay gap to know whether the problem is one of equal pay or pay equity or both? And how can we close that gap if we don't report robustly on these problems?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
The gender pay gap, as it's discussed in New Zealand at the moment, is one indicator only. It compares the average of women and men's work across the entire economy, so it does not take into account texture of qualification, places of work, length of service and so on and so forth. So yes, there needs to be more work on a wide range of issues so that we can address the causes of that gap.
Question number 10.